The battlefield stretched across the cold emptiness of space. The United Terran Federation, UTF, fleet was in trouble. Their ships were heavily outnumbered by the Xylar Dominion, a ruthless alien empire that had conquered hundreds of worlds. The Terran commanders knew they were losing. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vanguard, watching as Xylar battleships closed in. His officers worked desperately, trying to hold the enemy back. Explosions flashed across the dark void as Terran cruisers were torn apart by enemy fire. "We can't hold much longer," shouted Commander Reyna, his second in command. Kane gritted his teeth. "We fight until the last ship." The Xylar Supreme Commander, Vokar the Merciless, watched the battle from his warship, the Doomfang. He smiled. Victory was certain. The Terrans were weak. Soon, their fleet would be destroyed, and their homeworld would fall. Vokar raised his clawed hand. "Prepare the final attack." Just as his ships moved in for the kill, a strange signal echoed through space. It was not human, not Xylar. Something else. Then it appeared. A massive, shadowy warship emerged from the darkness, its hull smooth and black, absorbing the light of distant stars. It was like nothing anyone had ever seen. No markings, no insignia. Just an ominous, silent presence. "What is that?" Kane whispered. The Xylar fleet hesitated. Even Vokar felt a chill. The unknown warship did not transmit any messages. It did not introduce itself. It simply drifted forward, slowly, silently. One of the Xylar captains scoffed. "Just one ship. Destroy it." 5 Xylar destroyers opened fire. Energy blasts raced toward the mysterious vessel, but the moment they reached it, the warship vanished. Gasps filled the Terran and Xylar ships alike. Kane's eyes widened. Did it just disappear? Before anyone could react, the warship reappeared, right behind the Xylar destroyers. And then it fired. A single bright blue beam cut through space like a sword, slicing all 5 Xylar destroyers in half. There was no explosion, no debris, just silence as their ships were erased from existence. Vokar's confidence turned to rage. "All ships, fire at that thing!" Now, the entire Xylar fleet launched a storm of missiles and plasma cannons, but the warship moved like a ghost, dodging every attack with unbelievable speed. It did not turn, did not tilt. It simply shifted, vanished, and reappeared somewhere else, as if space itself bent around it. On the Vanguard, Kane and his crew could only watch in stunned silence. Reyna shook her head. "Sir, that ship, it's not ours. It's not Xylar. It's something else." Kane gripped the edge of his command chair. "And whatever it is, it just turned the tide of this battle." The warship attacked again, this time targeting the Xylar battleships. Another beam shot through space, and in an instant 3 more enemy ships were gone. The Xylar captains panicked. "What kind of weapon is this?" Vokar growled. "This is impossible. No ship is this powerful." The warship remained silent, giving no explanation. It was as if it had no pilot, no crew, just a purpose. Then, without warning, the mysterious vessel stopped moving. It hovered there, motionless, as if waiting. The battlefield fell into dead silence. Terran and Xylar ships alike hesitated. No one dared to attack it again. And then, the warship spoke. A deep robotic voice echoed across all communication channels, across every ship, every planet in the system. "This battle is over." The voice was neither human nor alien. It was something beyond. Kane and his crew held their breath. Vokar clenched his fists. "You think you can stop us? We are the Xylar Dominion. We do not surrender." The warship's voice remained calm. "Then you will be erased." Before Vokar could respond, the warship vanished again. And when it reappeared, it was right in front of Vokar's flagship. The Doomfang's alarms blared. Vokar's crew screamed. His warriors had never known fear, until now. The warship charged its weapon again, this time brighter than before. Volker felt true terror. And then, the screen turned black. Kane's heart pounded as the mysterious warship hovered in front of Volker's flagship. Every Terran and Sylar officer watched in silence, their eyes fixed on the ominous black vessel. It had no markings, no visible weapons, yet it had wiped out half the Sylar fleet in minutes. Volker gritted his teeth. Fire everything. Now, the Doomfang and the remaining Sylar warships unleashed a storm of plasma cannons, missiles, and disruptor beams. A wall of firepower roared toward the black warship, enough to obliterate a planet. And yet, nothing hit. The warship shifted, bending space around it. The Sylar's most advanced targeting systems couldn't lock on. It was like trying to shoot a shadow. Admiral Kane and his officers could only watch in stunned silence. Reyna whispered, "It's impossible." The warship did not fire back immediately. It simply drifted forward, closing in on the Doomfang like a silent predator. For the first time in his brutal career, Volker, the merciless, felt fear. "Move the ship. Retreat. Now," he barked. But it was too late. A deep, resonant hum echoed through space. The warship's hull glowed with eerie blue energy, pulsating like a living creature. Then it spoke again. "Your reign ends here." Before anyone could react, a single thin beam of blue light extended from the warship's hull, touching the Doomfang. At first, nothing happened. Then, the Sylar flagship began to dissolve. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't destruction. It was erasure. The ship's metal, its crew, its energy core, everything simply vanished into thin air, like dust swept away by the wind. One moment, the Doomfang existed. The next, it was gone. An entire armada of Sylar ships had just witnessed the impossible. Their leader, their most powerful battleship, had been erased from existence without a sound. Panic spread through the fleet. Retreat. They destroyed the flagship. They're unstoppable. Ships broke formation, commanders screaming orders in desperation. But it didn't matter. The warship moved again, and wherever it appeared, Sylar ships vanished one by one. Kane's crew sat frozen in their seats. Reyna turned to her admiral, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do we do?" Kane exhaled slowly. "We wait." For the first time in history, the mighty Sylar Dominion was running. Their invincible fleet, once feared across the galaxy, was reduced to nothing in mere minutes. And then, the warship stopped. It did not chase the fleeing Sylar. It did not fire another shot. It simply hovered in space, silent, watching. Kane took a deep breath and did the only thing that made sense. He opened a transmission. "This is Admiral Kane of the United Terran Federation." The bridge crew held their breath. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, the warship responded. "You are not the enemy." Kane's blood ran cold. Who were they? What was this ship? Before he could ask, the warship vanished. Not into hyperspace, not through a wormhole. It simply blinked out of existence, as if it had never been there. The battlefield was quiet once more. No Sylar. No mysterious warship. Only the Terran survivors, floating among the wreckage of a war that had ended before they understood how. Kane's voice was hoarse. "Get me high command." Reyna swallowed. "Sir, what do we tell them?" Kane looked out into the endless void of space. "We tell them the truth." And somewhere, far beyond the known galaxy, the warship drifted on. Its mission was not over. The silence on the Terran flagship's bridge was deafening. Admiral Kane stood frozen, staring at the empty space where the mysterious warship had disappeared. His officers exchanged uncertain glances. No one dared to speak. Reyna finally broke the silence. "Sir, what just happened?" Kane exhaled slowly. "We survived." But the weight in his voice carried something more. A realization that survival was not victory. The Sylar Dominion's fleet had been reduced to nothing in mere minutes. Their mightiest warships had been erased, their infamous flagship, the Doomfang, vanishing as if it had never existed. And yet, despite the overwhelming power of the mysterious warship, it had simply left. Why? Kane turned to his communications officer. "Get me a direct link to High Command. Now." The officer's fingers danced across the console. "Connection established, sir." A flickering hologram of Fleet Marshal Duran appeared, his face hard and unreadable. "Admiral Kane, report." Kane swallowed. "Sir, the Xylar fleet has been destroyed, not by us, but by an unknown warship. He hesitated, searching for the right words. "It defies all known physics. It moves like a shadow, bends space around it. And its weapons." He clenched his jaw. "They don't destroy. They erase." Marshal Duran's expression darkened. "How many survivors?" Kane exhaled. "Only us. The Xylar are either dead or scattered." A murmur passed through High Command's transmission room. This was unprecedented. The Xylar Dominion had dominated the galaxy for centuries, until today. Duran's voice dropped to a grave tone. "Do you have any intelligence on this warship? Its origin? Its purpose?" Kane hesitated. Before it vanished, it spoke to us. A tense silence filled the channel. "What did it say?" Duran asked. Kane's throat felt dry. "It said, 'You are not the enemy.'" The weight of those words settled over them like a storm cloud. Duran's gaze hardened. "Find out who they are. Immediately." The transmission ended. Kane clenched his fists. Who were they? Why had they intervened? And most importantly, who was their true enemy? Reyna turned to him. "Sir, if they are not our enemy, does that mean they have one?" A shiver ran down Kane's spine. If this warship had an enemy powerful enough to concern them, what kind of force were they dealing with? Before he could answer, an alarm blared through the bridge. "Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up strange energy signatures," the tactical officer reported. Kane turned sharply. "Where?" The officer hesitated. "Everywhere." A holographic star map projected in front of them. Dozens, hundreds, of faint, flickering anomalies were scattered across known space. "What in the hell are those?" Reyna whispered. Kane felt his pulse quicken. "Magnify one." The hologram zoomed in on the nearest energy anomaly. At first, it looked like a black void, a distortion in space itself. But then, something moved inside it. A shape, a shadow, a warship. Hundreds of them. They weren't Xylar. They weren't Terran. They weren't from any known faction. And they were waking up. A deep chill settled in Kane's bones. The mysterious warship hadn't just destroyed the Xylar. It had prepared the battlefield. And the true war was only beginning. Kane stared at the holographic display, his mind racing. Hundreds of unknown warships, massive, silent, and hidden within the fabric of space itself, had been there all along, watching, waiting. The mysterious warship that had wiped out the Xylar fleet hadn't been an anomaly. It had been a warning. Reyna's voice was barely above a whisper. "Sir, what are those?" The tactical officer's hands trembled over his console. "They're everywhere. These readings, they were dormant before. But now, they're active." Kane clenched his jaw. "Send an encrypted report to High Command. Tell them we've got multiple unknown vessels appearing across known space." The officer hesitated. "Sir, do we engage?" Kane didn't answer immediately. His instincts, sharpened by decades of war, screamed against it. The Terran fleet had survived one impossible force. Could they handle another? "Hold position," he ordered. "Scan for any outgoing transmissions. If these things are waking up, I want to know if they're communicating." The bridge crew worked quickly, tension thick in the air. The star map flickered, marking each anomaly in red. Reyna's fingers tapped rapidly at her console. "Admiral, I think I have something." Kane turned sharply. "Talk to me." She adjusted the signal filters. It's faint, but there's a pattern, a repeating pulse. It's not random. The sound crackled through the speakers. A low, rhythmic pulse, like an ancient heartbeat echoing across space. Then, another pulse answered. Not one. Dozens. Kane's blood ran cold. They're talking to each other. A new alert flashed on the screen. The largest anomaly, a massive dark void at the galactic edge, had just shifted, and something was coming through. The ship's AI chimed in, its voice unusually hesitant. Unknown object emerging from subspace. The bridge crew watched as the distortion expanded, swallowing light itself. Then it arrived. A colossal vessel, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, descended into normal space. It dwarfed everything. The Terran flagship, the wreckage of the Tylar fleet, even the mysterious warship that had annihilated them. It was ancient, its hull covered in strange shifting symbols, glowing with energy so advanced it defied understanding. And at the center of the ship, a pulsing core of swirling darkness, a void contained within metal, shifting like it was, alive. Reyna staggered back from her console, eyes wide with disbelief. This isn't a ship. Kane barely found his voice. Then what the hell is it? Reyna's hands trembled as she translated the pulsating signals. Sir, I think it's a beacon. Kane's mind reeled. A beacon? Calling what? Then the pulse changed. One by one, the dormant warships across the galaxy responded. And for the first time, they moved. Not toward the Terran fleet. Not toward the remnants of the Xylar Dominion. They were all turning toward one direction. The galactic core. Kane's stomach tightened. Something old and powerful had just awakened. And whatever it was already coming. The Terran flagship hung motionless in space, its crew gripped by an eerie silence. Admiral Kane stared at the colossal void ship before them. It wasn't just massive. It was beyond comprehension. The darkness at its core shifted unnaturally, as though something inside was struggling to be free. Symbols, ancient, pulsating, alive, glowed across its hull. And every warship that had just awakened across the galaxy was turning toward it. Sir, Reyna's voice was tight, controlled, but Kane could hear the fear beneath it. Whatever this thing is, it's not alone. She pointed at the holographic display, where the anomalies across the galaxy flared one by one. And then, they started moving. Not through normal space. Not through hyperspace. They folded reality itself, vanishing in an instant, reappearing closer to the galactic core. Kane's gut clenched. This wasn't a fleet, it was an invasion. But against what? He turned to his tactical officer. Any transmissions from the mysterious warship? The officer shook his head. Nothing. It hasn't responded since the battle. Kane ground his teeth. They saved us from the Xylar, but they left us in the dark. Why? Reyna's console blared with a new warning. Sir, the void ship. She stopped, her hands tightening into fists. It's broadcasting something. The crew held their breath as the message played. It wasn't words. It was images, flashes of a dying galaxy, worlds devoured by endless darkness. Titanic beings, their bodies composed of twisting shadows, consuming planets like insects feasting on a carcass. And then, a single warship, not the one they had seen before, a different one. A warship so massive, so alien, it made the void ship before them look like a child's toy. It was the only thing standing between the apocalypse and survival. The vision ended. The bridge remained frozen. No one spoke. No one even breathed. Kane slowly turned to Reyna. Tell me you got that. She nodded, her face pale. It was a warning. Kane's heart pounded in his chest. The mysterious warship hadn't just been fighting the Xylar. It had been buying time. For this moment, for whatever was coming. The massive void ship before them began to move. Not toward them. Not toward any known civilization. It was heading to the core of the galaxy. And it wasn't alone. Across the holographic display, hundreds, thousands of ancient warships vanished from their positions, traveling through space in a way no Terran or Xylar vessel ever could. They weren't just ships. They were a remnant of something far older than any known empire, something that had fought this war before, something that had lost. Kane gritted his teeth, open a direct channel to High Command. This is no longer just about survival. The officer worked quickly. Channel open. Sir. Marshal Doran's grim face appeared in the hologram. Report. Kane's voice was deadly calm. Sir, we have a problem, and it's bigger than we ever imagined. Doran narrowed his eyes. Explain. Kane didn't hesitate. The Xylar were never the real threat. They were running from this. He motioned toward the screen, where the massive void ship was already vanishing into the distance. Doran's face hardened. And what exactly is this? Kane exhaled. I think we just witnessed the start of a war. Doran's expression remained cold. Then I suggest we figure out which side we're on. The transmission ended. Kane turned back to his crew. He already knew the answer. There was no side. There was only survival. And the clock was already ticking. The void ship had vanished into the depths of space, and with it, the last illusion that humanity was in control of its own fate. Admiral Kane stood on the flagship's bridge, staring at the holographic display as reality sank in. The galactic map showed thousands of unknown warships converging on the core, slipping between dimensions, folding space in ways that defied science. No Terran vessel could move like that. No Xylar fleet could even comprehend it. And the question that haunted Kane wasn't why they were going. It was what they were going to face. A low beep pulled him back. Sir, Reyna's voice was hoarse. Incoming transmission. The crew turned toward her. Kane frowned. From who? Reyna hesitated, her fingers trembling over the console. It's not a message, she swallowed. It's a countdown. The bridge fell into dead silence. On the screen, red numbers ticked down. Time remaining. 72 hours. Kane's stomach tightened. Patch it through to High Command. Now. The tactical officer worked quickly. Link established. Marshal Doran's face flickered onto the holographic display, his stern expression unreadable. Admiral Kane. Report. Kane wasted no time. Sir, every anomaly we detected has activated. The unknown warships are all moving toward the galactic core. Doran's jaw clenched. And you're saying there's a timer counting down? Yes, sir. Kane's voice was grim. 72 hours. Doran exchanged a glance with someone off-screen. We've received similar reports from deep space outposts. Every long-range sensor across known space just went blind. Kane's chest tightened. That wasn't a coincidence. Something was interfering with the universe itself. Reyna suddenly gasped. Sir, new data incoming. On the holographic display, the galactic core pulsed with anomaly spikes. And then, the first energy wave erupted from the center of the galaxy. The flagship's alarms screamed, sensors flickered, and the lights on the bridge dimmed for a split second. Then, just as quickly, everything stabilized. Kane's hands curled into fists. What the hell was that? Reyna was already scanning. That wave, it wasn't just energy. It was space itself bending. Doran's face darkened. Explain. Reyna pulled up the sensor readings. That was a gravitational pulse, sir, but not like anything we've ever seen. She tapped the screen, zooming into the galactic core. It's coming from somewhere deep inside. Kane's voice was low. Something just woke up. Another pulse followed. Stronger, more violent. And this time, the stars themselves flickered. Reyna's eyes widened. Sir, we're detecting star systems collapsing at the galactic core. Kane froze. Define collapsing. She zoomed in on the readings. Planets, suns, entire solar systems. They're just disappearing. The bridge remained silent. Turan's expression was unreadable. "You're saying this thing is wiping out star systems?" Reyna shook her head. "No, sir. I'm saying they're being devoured." Kane exhaled slowly. "By what?" Reyna hesitated. "I don't know." A third pulse followed. And this time, the wave didn't stop. It spread outward, growing, accelerating. A holographic map flared red, showing entire sectors caught in its reach. Then, the mysterious warship, the one that had destroyed the Xylar fleet, sent a transmission. For the first time, they were communicating. The message came through as a single sentence, translated by the ship's eye. Kane's blood ran cold as he read it. "You have 72 hours to run." The bridge crew stared at the words. The message was not a warning. It was a fact. Marshal Doran's voice was steel. "Admiral Kane, what's your recommendation?" Kane's jaw tightened. He could feel it, the weight of history pressing down on them. They weren't just watching a war begin. They were watching the end of the galaxy itself. He took a breath. "Sir," he said, "we don't have 72 hours." Doran narrowed his eyes. "Then how long do we have?" Kane's fingers hovered over the holographic display, staring at the ever-growing wave of destruction expanding from the core. His voice was quiet. "Maybe 12. The wave of annihilation was growing, faster than any prediction. Faster than light itself. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Terran flagship, watching the incoming readings. The numbers were impossible. The gravitational pulse sweeping outward from the galactic core had already consumed dozens of star systems, and it wasn't slowing down. It was accelerating. And at its center, beyond the event horizon of madness, something was moving. The unknown warships, the ones that had destroyed the Xylar fleet, had already reached the core. Every fleet commander in the galaxy had been trying to determine why. Why these ships, these entities of impossible power, had moved in silence for centuries only to reveal themselves now. And the answer was becoming horrifyingly clear. They weren't invaders. They were containment. And they had failed. "Sir," Reyna's voice was shaking. "New transmission." Kane turned to her. "From who?" She swallowed hard. The warship, the mysterious vessel, the one that had defied entire armadas, the one that had humiliated the Xylar Dominion's most advanced battle fleet like they were toys. It was sending coordinates. Kane clenched his jaw. "Put it through." A holographic image formed in front of them. It wasn't a message in words. It was a map. A single path through the galaxy, weaving between the expanding waves of destruction, avoiding collapse points, leading somewhere beyond known space. "The hell is this?" one of the officers muttered. Reyna studied the data. "It's an escape route." Kane's breath caught in his chest. "This ship," he said, staring at the warship's spectral image on the map, "it's not attacking us." Reyna looked at him, eyes wide. "No," she whispered. "It's trying to save us." The bridge remained silent. The message was clear. The warship was telling them where to go, how to survive. But Kane's gut twisted, because survival meant leaving everything behind. Doran's voice crackled through the comms. "Admiral Kane, your fleet is still holding position at the galactic border." Kane tightened his grip. "Yes, sir." Doran's tone was unreadable. "Then you're our last line of defense." A heavy silence followed. Reyna turned, horrified. "Wait, sir, what are you saying?" Doran exhaled slowly. "The core is lost. You've seen the numbers." The pulse was spreading at a rate beyond light-speed physics. Entire solar systems were being crushed into nothingness. Doran continued, "We need time to evacuate as many as we can." Kane felt the weight of his next words pressing on his chest. "You're asking us to buy time," he said. His voice was calm, but every officer on the bridge could hear the finality in it. Doran didn't respond, because they both knew the answer. Kane looked at the holographic map again. The warship was still waiting. waiting for them to choose. Reyna's voice cracked. "Sir, if we follow these coordinates, if we leave now, we live," Kane finished. She nodded, swallowing. "Yes, sir." Kane turned back to the main tactical display. His fleet, the last fleet of humanity, still had its weapons primed, still ready to fight. But what was coming wasn't an enemy. It was something else, something older, something that had waited in the core for eons, until the walls broke. He could still hear the warship's silent warning echoing in his mind. "You have 72 hours to run." Kane exhaled. There was no time left. "Transmit the warship's coordinates to every fleet in range," he ordered. "Tell them to run." Reyna's hand shook as she relayed the message. Then Kane turned to his battle group and gave the order that would seal their fate. "All remaining ships," he said, his voice steady, "hold the line." There was no hesitation, no protest. The fleet remained silent, because they all knew this was not about victory. This was about buying time. As the first wave of destruction reached them, as their shields flared against the force of a collapsing universe, Kane closed his eyes. And the last thing he saw was the warship vanishing into the stars, leading the survivors toward a future they would never see.